Mic you up, man.
Okay, go.
I'm gonna stare into the camera. Who's seeing this, by the way?
Oh, just any latecomers.
Oh, okay. Latecomers, get it together.
Yeah.
Alright, well, thanks for the time. If you didn't get pizza already, keep eating. There's a couple there, so. I am with Smith, and I do a bunch of other brands, but Smith is the one we'll kind of focus on. Before I jump into all that, does everyone kind of have a good understanding of the goggle anatomy and what you're looking for in a goggle? Yeah, you feel confident enough at least to tell someone about a few of the differences, or is everybody brand new? Everyone's new? Alright. Okay, so I'm gonna start with this guy. This is our top end guy. This is called the 4D. And you've heard of 3D, right? So this is 4D. Basically what this goggle is a new take on a lens that has got a curved lens. So you can see how it goes all the way around the end of the frame. It's pretty sweet. But what that does is give you a peripheral that is nuts. It's super crazy. But this is a magnetized lens. And just so you know, when you're looking at goggles, because the first thing people are gonna do is ask you what? Does anyone know?
What lenses?
No, about goggles. They walk in, they're like,
gonna fog up?
what's your cheapest goggle? Right? That's probably what is the first thing out of someone's mouth. The next is maybe they have an affinity for something, but their first thing they're gonna say is, what's your cheapest goggle? So I always like to recommend pull the cheap one out that they're after, and we've got a couple, but we also have a super high-end one. But I would pull that out just to show them side by side so that they can have an idea of what's the difference. And that's where you guys come in, is explaining the differences between all those prices, right? So the first thing you want to talk about is basically the anatomy of the goggle, right? So you have the lens to talk about, the structure of the goggle to talk about, and then the lens technology, okay? So in lenses, you're gonna wanna look for two things. In this one, this is a brand new goggle, it's called the 4D, and like I said, it is totally revolutionary. It bends that whole goggle frame and gives you 25% more peripheral, okay? So that's number one. Number two, the lens technology, or the visible field that it's made out of, we have a technology called ChromaPop. ChromaPop is in all our sunglasses and in our high-end goggles. And that's important later on in a couple of the more mid-price points, because a couple of them don't come with it, which makes a huge difference when you're talking about a lens, right? So and what is ChromaPop? ChromaPop essentially is HD. That's what I call it. HD for your face. Think about you probably are too young. Some of you guys are okay, but the old school TVs, right? They were this fat, gnarly. They took up all this room, and then you got these nice flat screens and that sick TV, right? It's almost like you can reach in there and touch that thing. Well, HD is basically our trademark name for ChromaPop, okay? So, or rather, ChromaPop is our proprietary name. So anyway, that's super important as we go through the line, but both lenses, because this comes with two lenses, and that's another thing that's super important to focus on with lenses, is the 4D, and all interchangeable IOs will come with a second lens. That second lens typically, is a low light lens. And then you'll get a sunny day lens with it. So there's always, no matter what the color of tint in the lens, it's going to be a sunny day lens and an overcast day, okay? So just remember, when you're talking about lenses, we've got ChromaPop to talk about, we got the lens curvature to talk about. So this is 4D and spherical, okay? So the 4D is that wrap, right? And spherical is more shaped like your eye, so it's more optically correct. And we'll get into a couple, but cylindrical is the flat lens, which you'll see it kind of goes down in price. So with that said, we jump into the frame or structure of the like goggle, okay? So what's cool is, like I said, this is a magnetized lens. So you see this little lever right here on the edge? Right there, I just push that down, and basically you can grab the whole lens and just pull it right off. It's nuts. Magnet, it's amazing. So when it goes back in, you just want to make sure there's a couple little ridges in there where this little lip has to sit behind, and I'll pass these around to like mess with right after you've had pizza, so you can get it all greasy. But make sure that that goes in real nice and tight, and you don't have to take off either side. It could be one on this side or just this side, depends on what's more comfortable for you. But that lever lock allows it to not pop out if you wreck, so that lens just doesn't just release, okay? So we have a one system, and it's either here or on this side in this goggle. Now we'll talk about another one that has a little bit different switch, but that's for the 4D, okay? The next thing to keep in mind is this foam. You can see the 3 layers, essentially, the 3 different colors there. That foam is a 3-layer foam, and basically it's one to wick, one to like create nice face fit and comfort, and then there's also like a moisture management one that's a little more dense, so it'll hold the water essentially, or sweat in this case, and then the next layer wicks it away, okay? So 3 layers, fat foam. And then lastly, the strap, and most people forget this one, and it's so nice. Instead of yanking this thing like all over your helmet or over your head in here, it's a clip buckle back. It's super nice, so you can just put it right on, and then make sure you just lock it in and pull it on, okay? It's got these nice little cinches to tighten it down, but also you'll notice in the inside of the strap there's a silicone bead, which basically makes it so it stays put on your helmet, okay? So pretty simple, straightforward. This guy is at 280 bucks. This is called the 4D. Alrighty. So the next one, sorry, I gotta jump into this thing. This is the IO Mag. So this is another magnetic goggle that we'll have. Oh, one thing to keep in mind, and you can kind of see, I just have like two goggles on, out, right? The lens is out, and now it's like all this stuff's going everywhere. There's all this paperwork in there. That's 2 pairs of goggles. Now when you come in here and there's like 50 people and they're all like, get me a goggle, the snow's going away, I need to get out there, and they're rushing you, and you're like, oh man, which one, which box? Because remember, if it comes with another lens, this lens won't fit in this, right? So you got to make sure to keep track of boxes. So what I like to do is stick all this on top of each other so you know what's happening, okay? Because otherwise it'll be a nightmare, and you'll put the wrong goggle in the wrong box, and vice versa. Someone will get sold a goggle, they'll come back, this lens doesn't fit. You're like, oh, it's because it's the wrong one. So make sure to kind of take the time to just put all this away so that you're not having to mess with it later, and just keep it nice and tight, okay? So this is the IO Mag. Now this is the other goggle that you'll have with a magnetic lens. This is a $240 goggle, okay? So a while back we had the IO, and we upgraded to include now magnets. So this is a little bit different leverage system or button system, but you can see that little tab right here, this little pink tab. You see that? So you just push this down, okay? You just push that down. Super simple. Now, people are gonna wanna push it up, really crank on it. It literally does not take any real leverage at all. And you can see this little foot raise. You see that? It basically just releases that lens. And don't be afraid, make sure to grab around. So some people want to grab and just get that lens like this. Don't do that, because you could delaminate the 2 lenses. Just grab the frame, and you can see where it's got like kind of structure around the lens, right? So just lock that sucker, or make sure and grab that. Don't feel bad about grabbing the lens or getting it all dirty. We got microfiber bags you can clean, super easy. But again, This will come with 2 lenses, and does anyone know what the second lens will be?
Low light.
There it is. Bingo. Low light. Sunny day, overcast. Okay? Always, no matter what. Even in our low end goggles that come with 2 lenses, you'll still get that second lens. Okay? Again, 3-layer fat foam. You got your silicone bead, and then your clip buckle back. Cool? Super simple. Any questions?
So the difference is just the notch.
Yeah, and remember that curvature of this lens? So this lens, you won't see this, and I know it doesn't seem so remarkable right now, but if you were to take this outside and ride, imagine, here, I'll show you. So,
You see your feet.
yeah, well, you can see your feet, but also imagine putting a goggle on that sits off your face, and now this part is like, so right here is all blocked out. So basically from here down is all you're seeing, right? Now when you open that up, it's pretty remarkable. And I was kind of suspect on the whole thing because it's like, whatever. It's pretty massive. Like, I joke, and this is getting recorded, so if it comes back to me, oh well. I like to refer to it as doobie vision. So when you're on the lift, you can roll a doob. That's in Colorado though, so
When you go to Colorado.
not here. That was my Colorado pitch. But anyway, that's it's super cool. So, and not only that, it takes a lot of engineering to get a lens to bend like that without screwing up the optics, because it's a major angle. Think of a Coke bottle. When that Coke bottle bends at the bottom, it's just like super wobbly looking. You won't even see it in here. It's pretty crazy. So, two goggles, 2 high-end goggles. This price was, did I tell you?
240.
Bingo. What was the first one?
280.
Nice. All right, so we got the 2 mags out of the way. So I'm gonna go from my brain now, and I looked previously at your goggles, and I think I have it all. But we have this. There's 3 goggles that kind of come into the next tier, which you'll sell a grundle of because they're a good price point and they're kind of a retro style. Would you mind grabbing me those 2 goggles in there? So basically, the 3 goggles are called the Riot. Thank you. The Squad and the Squad XL. Does anyone know what the XL stands for? Yeah, killing it. So, Squad XL, right?
We should know that.
What?
Squad XL is more of a retro style. This is what we call, back to the kind of lens first frame and then the rest, right? So the lens, this is a cylindrical lens. If you forget that because it's kind of similar to spherical, just say flat, okay? And that's real easy to remember. But one thing is, can you see your reflection in there very well? It's pretty tough, right? Now, back to the spherical lens, night and day, right? It's almost like a mirror reflection. So the point I'm trying to get at is when someone's like, what's the difference between a $280 goggle and a $130 goggle, which is what the Squad XL is, you can start super obvious, right? The lens. The lens has less, the optics aren't as good in this, but it's $130, so it is a significantly less. This lens is what they call a thermal lens, or basically, like I said, it's cylindrical. What it does is it comes in this big flat sheet. Then we have these huge machines that come in and go and stamp it all out. So they're all flat. And then we take another lens, put it on the back. Scared the hell out of you, didn't you? He wants to tell you what's up. So the Squad lens is being flat. They heat it up. So it bends to the... Wyatt, really? Thank you. So then the difference in this goggle, the spherical goggle, it's actually a injected molded. So we make and this other one, any spherical goggle is injected molded. So that lens has got a mold, and we put all the liquid in, and it's liquid. So it goes in, and it's just like it forms hard. So there's no wanting for it to come back to flat like these guys. This is like a crazy process. and then we have to mill it down and make sure buff it all out. So there's a lot going on in a spherical lens versus a cylindrical. Now, a lot of the trend is here. A lot of people are liking this like kind of retro or flat lens look. This goggle, again, we called it the Squad XL 130, comes with a second lens. That second lens, and you can see right there on the end, what does that say down there?
Squad XL chroma.
Nice. So on every lens, it'll say what the frame is, as well as if it's chroma pop. If it doesn't list chroma pop, it is not. Okay? So this lens is 130, and it comes with a second lens that is chroma pop as well. Okay? And again, can we guess what the second lens would be? Low light. Bingo. So we got low light. Now we got the same 3-layer fat foam, the ventilation at the top of the goggle. What we don't have, or what we lose here, is clip buckle back. Okay? So now we don't have a clip buckle back. We kind of yank that thing over our head. All right? So now what we start to do is detune the goggle a little so we can offer more value in terms of pricing. Okay? So that is the Squad XL. Now, the next one is going to be the Squad. Can anyone guess? Is it bigger or larger than the XL? I have faith that you've got this. There we go. Bingo. So this would be what we call medium size, right? So Squad. This is the Squad.
Is that like more like a teen type?
It's just honestly like
'Cause
some.
that looks tiny for a.
It just looks tiny here, but honestly, you put this on, like, it fits on my face, no problem. What's nicer is like, so I'll get to that. Let me keep rolling here, but so Squad, right, is the larger version, Squad XL, excuse me, and then the Squad is like the more mid-size. And the one I don't have, I'm sure you have it, but it's called the Riot. The Riot is a little bit smaller, and it fits more of like female or younger kids, okay, or teens. This will also fit teens and women and guys with smaller faces, but it's just kind of size based, and it's not really. You'd be surprised how big a goggle you can go. One reason to go with a bigger goggle is to give more volume, okay? And why would you think you want more volume in your goggle?
It's more peripheral.
More peripheral. What else? Less fog. That's the big one. So what happens when you roll up to the window and you're all, right? That whole thing just fogs all up. Well, it's a nice smooth surface, so it collects all those molecules and it's just like fogs up. Whereas this, in a bigger goggle, your eye is not as close, and your eye's producing heat in there, especially when you're riding. So when you produce heat, it wants to go over there and it can fog easier. So if you got that big dude walks in, you know, he's got his jacket half zipped down because he's hotter than hell. He's got a beard like this big. His cheeks are bigger than mine. And, you know, maybe he's overweight. Sell him a bigger goggle. Because the number one thing he's going to say as he comes back, he's like, oh man, these things fog all the time. And he's got like a flat lens on it. One thing is to increase the volume there, okay? So that's a huge thing to remember. And don't let these kids get away, or parents get away with saying, oh yeah, what's your cheapest goggle? And they buy a kid's goggle and it's like, fits like this. Because they will not enjoy their time. They just spent all this money buying a ticket, they're all for the whole family, and they got a goggle this big. It will suck. They will not like it.
And they'll bring it back and they'll have snot all over it. It'll be all
Yeah,
gross,
and they'll blame
want
you.
to change it for a different one. You're
Yeah.
just like, what am I gonna do with this one?
P.S.
It's like, nothing.
We don't rent goggles, right? Some people come in like, oh, this had a scratch. At the end of the day, it's like, oh, really? Did it? Make sure, pull it out of the box, show them. Make sure they're happy with it because we don't rent goggles, okay? So the next one is that Riot. Now the Riot and the Squad have a different price. It's $100. And the reason it's less, can anyone guess?
It's smaller. Less material.
You can make that argument for sure. There's one major thing. And I'll give you a clue.
One lens?
Doesn't have that.
Has to come with it comes with a second lens.
Doesn't have the chrome mold.
Bingo. So this
pop.
lens does not have chroma pop, okay? So it's a low light lens, but it's not chroma pop, okay? So keep Squad and Riot. So both are at $100, and so when someone's like, For 130, they get 2 ChromaPop lenses, okay? And here they still get a second lens, low light lens, but it's 100 because it's not ChromaPop, okay? Cool. How we feel about that? Good. All right. So the next here is when we start to drop off the second lenses. Okay. So now it comes with the lens that's in it, and this will be the drift and the range that you'll have. You will sell a bajillion of these, along with the Cascade. Those are all kind of in that vein of like what we call mid-tier to the lower price tier pricing on goggles. So what it is here is you only have 2-layer fat foam, and then it's a cylindrical lens. You won't get a clip buckle back, and then in the range and the drift you'll get a mirror lens. So that's a $75 price point. And again, those models were drift and range, both at 75. And then your next bump down, you're going to be at the Cascade. Okay. Oh, sorry, Project. I apologize. You have the Project. Your Project is your super price point over the glass goggle. Does everyone know what over the glass means? So if you wear prescription eyewear, you can put the goggles OTG, over the glass. Okay? So we also make a couple other models that you'll have that are specifically made for glasses. That's called the Knowledge, the Showcase, and then you get this super, super old one called the Caribou. And that one is like, it looks like a TV on your face. But it's huge, it's that way because there are some, typically it's older gentlemen that have like these glasses like this big, and they're fairly thick. So make sure you just get the right fit, because as you can imagine, putting an eyeglass behind there and all this heating up like I talked to you, making it closer, the goggle typically doesn't fog. It's usually the eyewear and or the prescription, right? So try and give them more volume so that gives more room for it to air movement, okay? So then you'll have your kids, and let me back up. Project is at $40. That is also the OTG, and it'll say it on the box, but also on the frame. The side of the frame will be cut out, and that's what allows it, or that's what makes it OTG. So it doesn't push on the temples when you put it on. Okay, so we have Knowledge, Showcase. What did I say? Oh, Caribou, and then the Project. You have 4 options in over the glass. And the only one that's kind of like stands out, other than pricing in that, is going to be the Showcase. The Showcase is a spherical lens goggle, but is typically made for smaller faces. So if a woman or a younger child needs something to go over their glass, that's the one to go to. It is a little more expensive because it has a spherical lens. So I'll go through the prices on the 4, okay? The Knowledge is at $85. The Showcase, that expensive one, is at $120. The Caribou is at $75. Or excuse me, $55. I apologize. And then your Project is at $40. Cool. And then we have kids, and you have 2 models from us in kids, and that's going to be the Rascal, which is like the super little bitty, and that guy's $25, and then the Daredevil at $35. Okay. Now, there's going to be a ton of questions when people come in and go, what is the difference between all of the lenses? Here is a great visual for them to kind of like peruse. Maybe you could put this up, we could put it up there or something, but this gives an idea of where it's at in terms of like the lens tint, what it's good for. Honestly, lens tint is a little bit, what you prefer. Do you like red? Do you like green? Do you like blue? I have noticed though, people with lighter irises or blue eyes tend to like lighter lenses because they need more light coming in, or excuse me, darker lenses because they have already a lot of light coming in. People with brown eyes or green eyes typically like a darker lens because or a lighter lens. Did everyone get that? It's confusing as mud. If you have darker eyes, that means basically less light is being let in. Okay? Typically brown and green, they like, you know, a lighter lens, which is a blue sensor. So it's usually like down here, where is it? Oh, one of these. So the Storm or this yellow, like those are great for people with like darker irises. People with blue irises are a little lighter, typically like it darker, because they already are getting a lot of light. Does that make sense? Cool. So I'll leave this for you guys as well.
How do you change this lens?
These guys,
Yeah.
these are not easy.
You showed us the magnet is what I
Yeah.
mentioned.
So I'll show you. This is a tougher goggle. Basically, you can see this frame up top right here, and this bottom frame. That acts as like a casing, and then on the end, you can kind of see it's got another one, and it's got like a hook around each of these ends. Now, we have a lifetime warranty, okay? It's on manufacturer's defects. So you fall down, you know, dog chews on it, that's not our fault. But if you break it, or like, you know, breaking it by like trying to push it in or whatever, you're like, you know, muscling this guy around, don't worry, we'll take care of it, okay? Lifetime warranty on manufacturer's defects. So, and I say that because these goggles, you can't, don't be afraid to like kind of manhandle it, because it takes a little bit of effort on some of them, especially when they're new like this. So the top, like I just grab, you can see in here, I'll grab this frame here, and I'll grab the bottom, and I just like work it out, okay? And you just pull it forward towards you, and then you can pop all this around, okay? And then you just pull this right out. Okay, so that's the lens. This is what it looks like when it's out. Now going back in is the harder part. So what I always say is to start in the nose and pinch the nose, because oftentimes people don't seat it up here as well as they should. And it needs to get right in there. And one thing before I get in there, you can kind of see those like little dovetail holes in there in the frame. That's what holds that lens in. Is that hard to see? I know, but you can see on the lens, that's where these little tabs go, okay? So make sure when you're going in that you try to get one side seated, and then you kind of follow that nose around, and now I've got them both in, okay? And then, so you see how the edges are all hooked? You kind of want to start one side. And like I said, you got to muscle this around. So you get one side in, and then same thing goes here. And what I do is start it on this edge, the front edge, because it's hard to get it back there because it kind of goes at a slant like that. So if you start it on the front of this and then push it forward, it'll pop in a lot easier, okay? And then go on the top, and then the top also has got that little lock that needs to fit in there, and you can see there's a little T-bar there. So you see that little space? There's basically a thing that goes in there, and that, again, it needs to get kind of shoved around in there. So here we are. Now I've got it all in except for this side, okay? This is where it gets fun. So, I muscled that bottom in, and now on this top edge. This is the worst one. And I always have to undo sometimes, because what I like to do is pull it back like that, and then slide it in there. Does that make sense? So now then I can come back in and make sure it's back in. But it took a lot to take that out, which is another reason why 200 or 240 and 280 is way easier, right? So going in. So if older person is liking like, oh, I like the interchangeability of it, and they have trouble or dexterity, like this will be a really challenging goggle for them, okay? And again, you saw how much I muscled that around. Like, don't be afraid to just crank on it, okay? If you break it, we'll figure it out. Cool? Any questions? Yeah.
This is general question, but what would you say to people, customers who's having problem with vlogging? Because I never figure out what they do to get it
So messed up. Yeah. So fogged up. I thought you said something else. No, so what it is it's funny because I on all the what did you do to fog this up? I got on a plane and we had this sales meeting and I get dressed up like a cowboy, right? And I had this crazy outfit on and like huge hat, and I'm on the plane, and people are like, "What is your deal?" And there's 4 of us that are all like this, and they're all like, "Oh, what are you guys? Are you a band?" And we're like, "Yeah, we're a folk band." And they're like, "Really?" They're like, "What's the name of your band?" I'm like, "We're all folked up." And so I had to go there with yours. But anyway, long story short, there's a few reasons, okay? We talked about the volume, right? Number 1 is when you're working with like weather, you have to manage 2 things. Moisture, right? Moisture is number 1. Like, if you're sweating, you gotta figure out either you gotta shed a layer or put one on. Or if you're sweating, you need to take one off, right? But if and that's that even in your feet. Like if you wear cotton socks and you have a nice warm boot, then you start to get all warm, then you sweat, your sock soaks up, or your socks soaks up the sweat, and now guess what? Your feet are gonna freeze because that sock isn't wicking. Cotton is not a wicking material. So number 1, moisture management. The next one is you gotta dry this out. If you're here for a week or so and they're going back to back to back every day and they just leave it in there, like most of us are like, "Oh, throw it in my box," and again, put it in the case or on your face to keep them from scratching. But most of you just throw it in the car. It's rolling around in there. But if it's in the car and it's all sweaty from the day before, and then you get here in the morning, you're like, "Sweet." You won't even feel it because it's all frozen. You'll just think, "Oh man, it's nice and cold. It's 13 degrees, of course it's cold." You put it on, and then it won't start doing what it should do, which is wick and take care of those things. So you gotta dry that out, okay? The next thing is, they could have a super old goggle, okay? Unfortunately, that's a delicate subject because you can't just be like, "Yo, you cheap ass, you gotta buy another goggle." You know, because they're like, "Hey, I just got this one from my buddy's closet," and maybe it should work. You know what? I don't know how long they've had it, but some of this has to do with you gotta have like updated equipment. If it's taken a beating and you've had a few years on it, it's probably time for a new one. But the biggest one I can give you is that and typically I see this mostly with heavier set people or like, you know, just bigger people, and they just haven't managed their sweating. So they got this huge jacket on, they're sweating all over the place, they got a beanie on, they got like a balaclava over the beanie, they got their helmet over the beanie, over the balaclava, and they're sweating. And they're like, "Well, this goggle doesn't work." And you're like, "It works fine. Your body isn't working right now." And what it's trying to do is get rid of heat, right? So manage that moisture. And keep things away, like so there's another one. We have what we call 5X. It's a technology. Hey, knock it off. That we have a technology called 5X. 5X is our anti-fog technology, okay? I forgot to mention that in all these goggles. So thanks for bringing that up. But 5X is basically not a coating. All of our goggles do not have coatings. Okay, a coating is something like put on the lens that like can come off if you clean it. They're always like, "Oh, don't clean the inside." Our goggles, you can't clean it. It's fine to clean it. What 5X is a laser etching. So basically, we go into the goggle and make these vertical lines, perfectly straight. You can't see it from looking in here. There's no way. But what happens is what we do by putting those little ridges in it, it creates, do you remember when I was talking about the window and you go up in that smooth surface and you breathe on it and it just collects the air molecules and they pool together? Well, what happens when you put ridges in them is that surface is no longer smooth. It breaks the surface up so it has less opportunity to fog. Does that make sense? So that's one thing that we do to help our goggles from fogging. And in addition to that, this is a perfect segue, is that we also sell helmets. You guys will have helmets. You have a couple high-end ones, and I'll go through all the models real quick, but one thing, excuse me, that we do is the top of the goggle, you'll notice, has got like this nice thin foam, right? And that's there because the heat in there needs to go away and escape. But what happens when you put on a helmet, or you have a helmet on, right? You're in there, what's going on? All this is now fully just a cap, right? It's a cap right on where that hot air is supposed to go. Well, our helmets also vent the goggle. So if you look in every Smith helmet, there's a venting on all the under brim of that helmet that won't trap that hot air from rising and escaping, which is nice. So if you think about, in the summer and you're trying to get like airflow going, you open the front door of your house and the back door of your house, and that it just creates this nice air traffic. That's what's happening. We're getting rid of all that moisture management because that will also help reduce fogging. Okay, sometimes it just is what it is. You sweat enough, you get oils from your skin. Maybe it's also you had sunscreen on and you get it in there, and what happens? Don't ever put, you guys have it, cat crap, do you sell that? Don't put it in ours, okay? You don't need to, because what happens, remember those micro etchings? What you do is you fill in that whole thing, and now it's all perfectly smooth, so it can fog easier, okay? So on ours, you don't need to, okay? So then going back to helmets, we have a few top end ones. We have one that's called the Vantage. The Vantage is our highest end helmet, and you're gonna be at 280, I believe, right? 260.
You forgot the key though to fogging.
Oh yeah.
So Molly, tell him don't crash.
Oh yeah. Don't crash. You know what? At the end of the day, we're not rocket scientists. We're all here to help everyone have fun. So he brings up super great points of just like have fun with people. If they come in, they're all distraught. Try to diffuse that, because that is typically the biggest problem is people want to have fun, right? And they're here to have fun. This is a fun sport. It's not like we're here crunching numbers or something, and if you're a mathematician, I'm sorry, but that might be fun to you. It's not to me. So we're here to have fun. So diffuse that, because a lot of times, mom and dad, they're all preoccupied trying to make this great day. It costs them all this money, and their kids are running all over the place. They've already lost their goggles. They lost their gloves. They're in here because they lost them, and now they got to spend more. So try to read into that situation and help diffuse that, and to his point, he kind of called me on it. It's like, don't crash. It's like, oh, if you're not crashing, you're not doing it right. But
that's where usually your goggles get fogged.
Yeah.
You get the snow and stuff there when you crash.
And then you also bang that out, okay? Like, do not wipe it out. And the reason is, does anyone know what snow is besides frozen water?
Dust and dirt in there and everything.
Crystals. It is a crystal. So if you're in there and you're just, no matter what, you take this and there's snow and you wipe it out, it's like raking a crystal across the whole front of it. So don't do that. So make sure and bang that out, okay? Get rid of the snow, and then if there's moisture or just water droplets, that's when you can use this or no fog cloth that we have. It's like a little sponge with a chamois on the front. But that kind of helps that fog situation. So back to the Vantage. The Vantage is our highest end. The differences here, first of all, helmets are a piece of equipment, safety equipment, right? They are meant to fit snug. They are not meant to just be loose. In some cases, especially in children, I see parents make this mistake. Number one, they think the kid is like screaming, it's too tight, I can't handle it. That may be the truth, but it might be your kid's just a little complainer. So that thing needs to fit snug. And by snug, when you move the helmet up and down, the skin on their forehead should go up and down. Okay, that's how snug it should be. Additionally, don't let mom, and it's usually mom. I leave dad out of it because he's like usually not buying, but mom is usually in here buying the gear. They buy him a helmet, and she's used to buying like a couple sizes bigger because their feet are growing. She just bought him shoes, these sick Nikes, and now she can't wear them anymore because they're growing out of them, right? Well, guess what? The human head is fully grown by age 8. Average. I mean, it's 8 to 10, but usually that's when you see all those kids with bobbleheads, right? Their bodies are too little to support that giant head. And just reassure them that it has to fit snug now. little Johnny can't fit into it in a year from now. Like, it will not work and protect him, which is the point, okay? So then, after you discuss fit, you kind of want to walk through what it is that they're looking for. There's a couple things that differentiate price point, and one of those is going to be the fit. So there's a couple systems we have. There's 3 different fit systems. We have one in the high-end one, which is called a 360 BOA fit. So it's a little dial on the back that you can crank down, and when I say 360, if this is your head, the entire circumference is actually tightening, okay? The next one down is called the dial fit system. That dial fit system is on our mid to lower price tier category, and it's similar. It has a dial, but it is not BOA, and it's like a bike helmet. It just gathers in the back of the helmet. So you've got this thing like this, and it just ratchets down like this and gathers to make it snug. Obviously, the 360 fit is going to give you a little bit better fit and comfort, okay? So the next one down would be our lifestyle fit system. Now, a lifestyle fit system, if you're familiar with like flex fit hats, that's kind of how it fits. You just put it on and it stretches out and it just fits your head, or it doesn't, okay? And you got to figure out your size. But it is comfortable, but it is not as I don't know what the word is. It doesn't tighten down as well or as neatly, okay? And then lastly, in kids, we have that dial fit system, and but again, you only have the 3 fit systems in helmets, okay? The next thing that'll kind of give a price tier differentiation is going to be how many vents and whether or not that vent can be opened or closed, okay? So now in the Vantage, the high-end one, you've got more vent plugs going on, and you can open them up, and you can manipulate the front, the back. It's got 2 different switches. There's lots of opportunity for venting, okay? The next tier down is just going to have a 1 slider, and it's going to either open up all of them, and you can open them up gradually or close them all the way, but it is just 1, okay? The Vantage has 2, where it's dual zone control, as they call it. So it's the front half and the back half. So if you need to get a little air or neither or, you can. Lastly, in the lower price tier, or the Holt is what our lower kind of model is the vent is just open, but there's a mesh over it, so nothing gets inside, but it still allows moisture to escape or heat, okay? So, and then the other thing that will help, that gives a price differentiation, is the materials it's made of, okay? So in our high-end helmet, we have what we call Koroyd, and that, you'll never remember it, but you'll notice it because it looks like honeycomb, or all these little straws put together, and you'll be like, what is this? Basically, it really is like a straw. However, it's a little more structured, right? But what we do is we assemble it in a honeycomb fashion, and then we put it on its end. So in the vents, it'll be all on its ends, and basically it's like taking an egg. And have you ever tried to crush an egg from end to end? It's impossible. I mean, if you got like a clamp, you probably could, but to crush it like end to end, you just can't. It's just in the way it's engineered. If you stick it on its side, we could easily just like crush it, right? Well, these straws are similar. It's just this nice little piece of plastic, all tightly put together, and basically what that does is acts like it reduces an impact up to 30%. Okay, it has 2 functions. It's to reduce that impact, and it is also to vent. Okay, so you'll see that actually if you go in and look underneath the vegetable aisle. Underneath, they have all these little straw things up there, and the reason is because it is the most efficient way to direct airflow, and that's what we wanted. We wanted to get rid of it as quick as possible, or keep it all in and keep it contained if it's vented. Again, that'll be in our higher end model, that material. That said, the next models down will be a little thicker, okay? And by that I mean the outer shell. There's 2 kinds of styrofoam that we make helmets out of: EPS and EPP. You'll never need to remember that. EPS is expanded polystyrene, EPP is expanded polypropylene. You'll never need to remember it, but what it is one's more dense than the other. And the reason they're more dense is because it gives us more opportunity to have less of an outer shell. The thicker outer shell means that it is a less dense styrofoam. That means that part of the shell is acting as the protectant as well as the styrofoam. Now, the ones that are super thin outer shells, that styrofoam is crazy dense, meaning we're not really relying on the outer shell for impact resistance, we're just relying on the styrofoam. And why that makes a difference is it makes it a bigger, bulkier helmet if it's thicker, and a thinner material makes it thinner and lighter weight. So it's more comfort, okay? So again, I know that's a lot that we covered in all those helmets, but the biggest things that you can talk about would be materials the helmet's made out of, how many vents it has, and how it fits your head. Okay? Real simple, 3 things. And then you can get into all the other stuff. What else? What can I tell you? Anything? Feel good about it? Alright. Do we have a lifetime warranty?
Yes.
If Wyatt was to eat it and regurgitate it out, is it covered?
No.
I always come up with this. Kim always, she and I we're been friends forever, and I just try to take care of her if there's issues. Okay, so if a customer comes in, they just bought it, and there's something weird, you guys probably have a policy about how it's done, but if they just spent like $500-600 on goggles and for all their family and whatever else, take care of them. We'll figure it out. Okay, like if this is all stretched out, maybe this the lens doesn't fit as well, make them happy. Okay, because that's the Smith vibe is like super inclusive, and we make stuff for everyone from like super pro to like crazy beginner, and we want everyone out there, whether you ski or snowboard or telly. I mean, I kind of talk shit on the telly guys, but anyway, it's more so to do with my friend. I just like to give him help. So anyway, we're super inclusive. Like, we're all about just having fun. So thanks for your time. I do have some stuff to give away. I never know how to give it away, so I always give it to Kim to let her be the bad guy. I'm going to be giving away these Squad XLs, this IO Mag, and these donut goggles, the Squad. So you guys get to figure out who is fighting for what, but know that they're there for you, and I'll let her know too. Any questions? Things you need to you haven't thought of? Maybe you need to.
When was Smith started?
What? Started? We started in 1965, and then
Sun Valley?
actually, it was started at Alta Ski Resort.
Hmm.
Yeah. So Bob Smith was he was a dentist, and then he did ski patrol, and he loved skiing when it was nice and shitty outside. So in that day, all they wore was like Levi's, rear entry boots, and like leather gloves. Some of you might still do that, but hopefully the rear entry boots aren't there. But if you snowboard, you don't even get that. But he decided I wanted to ski when it was bad out, and he always had just sunglasses on, right? So what he did is he got his dentist goggle that would look like a shop goggle and wore that. And the first time he went, it fogged. Can anyone guess why?
No ventilation.
Breathe.
Pretty close. Those are all good answers. The biggest reason is it was a single lens goggle. Okay, all our goggle lenses are double lenses. So he invented the first double lens goggle. He cut out another goggle or a shop goggle and glued it to itself. So there was all this dense air. And if you think about it, that's what like double pane windows are. There's just an air gap in there, and it's meant to insulate. So that's exactly how it happened. So he invented this double lens goggle, 1965. We also had an electric goggle, and I don't mean the brand electric. I mean that it was
Plug in a battery.
plug in a battery and it had a fan that would ventilate the goggle. We still have that goggle.
They made those are from back in 60s.
It wasn't the exact model now, but yeah, 67 actually.
Really? Huh.
So the guy is pretty genius and pioneered a whole new world for a lot of us to ski and snowboard. Obviously, he didn't know what snowboarding was, but they've been around for a long time. And in fact, we put a lot of our competitors in business. Believe it or not, Anon. We made all of their goggles when they first started for them. Spy, same thing. We also make the military's goggles, so, and eyewear. Those goggles are crazy. You can get shot in the face with a 9mm, and it will not penetrate the lens. They're fully ballistic. They're pretty nuts. But we come from a place of insane technology. And so when I talk about this like ChromaPop, go look at it. Make sure you believe it, because it isn't just, again, I'm like not one to buy the hype. And I know that probably comes off weird because I'm here giving you the hype, but it really is true. Like, you go and put a normal goggle out there, and it can best be seen with our sunglasses, because the sunglasses just better quality. It allows more, this is a better quality lens, right? We can mill it down and grind it, versus this is like a polyurethane material, and it can't exactly grind it to the level that we can a sunglass. But that said, you take a ChromaPop and a non-ChromaPop, you'll notice a huge difference. And when we're trying to see, and as many of you probably have been out there on a snowy day, you're like, vertigo, it's white out, you can't see anything. Like, it's pretty impressive what that definition gives you. So if you ever wanted to know how the technology works, I'll tell you really quickly. But basically, all it is there's in life, I feel like I'm starting off a life lesson, but in life, all light, everything we see is just composed of light, right? Whether it's black or white, what that is your brain seeing light wavelength. And there's all variations in color, but basically what happens in the human brain, for whatever reason, is red and green and blue and green. When those two light waves cross, it creates color confusion. So much so that it manifests in people sometimes with red-green colorblind or blue-green colorblind. And no, we did not solve being colorblind, but what it does is those two create color confusion, and you can't really see if it's orange or green. Like, it just gets a little hazy. So what we did is we put a filter where those two light waves generally cross in the light spectrum, and what it did is enhance not only those two colors and the colors around it, but all color. And it just basic, and again, it's the hardest thing to describe, and you'd be over here with charts and mapping stuff around, but the easiest way to put it is it's like HD. It just makes lines sharper. You can see the outline better. In the sky, it's crazy. You can look up and you see all these clouds, and with the naked eye you can see them, but sometimes it's so gray it kind of like fades into the sky. Well, you put ChromaPop on and it's like you can see the outlines of the clouds. It's pretty impressive. We always like to joke, see what you're missing, and it's really true, because there's a lot of things you wouldn't even notice. In fact, I've had some people that have had mild prescription be like, oh, whoa, I don't need prescription. And that's not true, but it is that kind of a feeling. It's very much like, oh, I see a difference. So.
Do you have ChromaPop on those shades?
I do.
Smith?
Yep.
Really?
Yeah. Believe it or not.
They're so cute. I've been looking at those.
Oh, have you?
Yeah, I'm like, those are so cute.
I might know a guy, so we can make something happen there. Thanks again, guys, for your time. I really appreciate it.